Welcome to Part 4 of Merit and P&S Search Committee Training. Part 4 will focus on a demonstration of the responsibilities within the Jobs at UNI system that will be performed by the search chair or search administrator. As the search chair, you will need to grant initial access to the applicant pool to the entire search committee. To do this, click on Manage Applicant Pool link, then click on the Open Applicant Pool for Scoring box. This option is only completed once during a search and cannot be reversed. The scoring of applicants through Jobs at UNI is optional for search committee members. Jobs at UNI has two scoring options available for search committee members to use for their own personal ratings of applicants. If using Jobs at UNI to score applicants, the search chair will need to select which option the committee will use, either the yes, no, maybe option or the numeric option. From the pool scoring type drop-down menu, select the preferred optional search committee member applicant scoring type. When using numeric scoring, please enter the highest number that an applicant may be given as a score. Committees may elect to use a supplemental scoring sheet outside of the Jobs at UNI system. This is also an effective way for search committees to calculate a total score for an applicant based on submitted materials and the position description. Search committee members can score each applicant individually, giving the search chair a numerical average for all of the committee members. Sample scoring sheets are available on the HRS webpage. After the first consideration date has passed and the search committee has deliberated, the chair will enter ratings for each applicant into the system on behalf of the entire committee. The chair will also indicate which applicants the committee has selected for on-campus interviews. These ratings belong to the search committee as a whole. Ratings are required and will be used to complete the hiring process. The EO Ratings Option tab can only be completed by the committee chair and represents what has been agreed upon by the committee members for each applicant. If a disagreement among committee members occurs that cannot be resolved, the chairperson is to temporarily suspend the search process immediately. The chair should prepare a report describing the problems as well as submit all related materials to the Office of Compliance and Equity Management for review. OCEM will inform the chair of how to proceed after the review. Access the Equal Opportunity EO rating options by clicking once on the Edit Ratings link. For each applicant, based on the qualifications listed in the advertisement, select a rating code from the following list of values. All required and preferred, 1. All required, some preferred, 2. All required, no preferred, 3. Did not meet required, 4. Required qualifications to be determined or applied after the full consideration date, 5, or incomplete application, 0. If a rating other than all required and preferred, 1 is selected, a text box will appear to indicate which of the qualifications the applicant did not meet. In this box, list the required and/or preferred qualifications the applicant did not meet. If the applicant was phone screened and will not be invited to an on-campus interview, include reasons they are not being selected for a campus interview based on the results of the phone screen in this text box. If the applicant would be considered a second-tier applicant, make that note in this box as well. For only those applicants the search committee wants to invite on campus for interview, select Permission to Interview. If an applicant withdrew their name from consideration, select Applicant Withdrew. Select Not Under Consideration at this time for all other applicants, including any applicants that previously would have been indicated as second tier. If additional interviewees are proposed after the initial on-campus interview pool has been approved by OCEM, pre-interview action codes will need to be changed to Permission to Interview for the additional applicant, second tier. The chair will then create and submit a second pre-interview report for approval. The next required field is to indicate whether applicant has been phone screened. For those applicants with the action code of Permission to Interview, the question related to any known conflict of interest will appear. This question is required before submitting the pre-interview report into workflow. For more information, click on the link to the Conflict of Interest Nepotism policy. Once all of the required fields are complete, click on Save Rating Information and go to Next Applicant. Then repeat the previous steps for each applicant. Once you have rated all applicants, you may submit a pre-interview report. The pre-interview report must be approved through the workflow, including OCEM approval, before on-campus interviews can be scheduled. To begin the pre-interview report, from the Search Committee options screen, click on Pre-interview Reports. Then click on the Start a Pre-interview Report button. Complete the required fields marked with red arrows. The first field is what type of interview will you be conducting. Applicants marked as permission to interview need to be interviewed on campus. Phone screens, Skype interviews, etc. do not replace the need for an on-campus interview. If a round of Skype interviews is elected to be conducted before bringing finalists to campus, the Skype interview pool must be approved by OCEM before a Skype interview can take place. Within the Other Comments section of the pre-interview report, provide details on the request for Skype interviews, such as why a Skype interview is being requested, which applicants will be interviewed via Skype, etc. Once any approved Skype interviews have been conducted, approval must be obtained by OCEM for campus interviews. The off-campus choice should not be selected on the pre-interview report. Finalists must participate in an on-campus interview. Answer the remaining required questions, including explaining what experience and degrees were considered as related. After you have completed the pre-interview report questions, you will need to assign the workflow. For P&S positions, HRS and OCEM do not need to be added to the workflow. The pre-interview report will automatically route to OCEM for approval once others listed in the workflow have approved. The pre-interview report does not require approval of the department head and division vice president. However, you may still include them in the workflow if the department head and/or division vice president have requested to approve the report. If the department head and/or division vice president do not need to be included in the workflow, select Remove next to each approver. This will send the report directly to OCEM. Once the workflow has been established, click on Save and Review for submission. Carefully review all sections of the pre-interview report. If everything is correct, click on the Finalize and Send into Workflow button. After all approvals are obtained, the search chair will receive notification that selected applicants have been approved for on-campus interviews. Once on-campus interviews have concluded, post-interview action codes will need to be completed for the applicants that were interviewed on campus. From the Search Committee options page, click on Rate Applicants, then click on Edit Ratings for the appropriate applicant. Select the appropriate post-interview action code for each of the applicants that have participated in on-campus interviews from the drop-down menu. Please do not select Applicant Hired on Requisition. An automated process will mark the applicant hired as soon as the search selection summary is completed in Workflow. There is no option for Offered Position. This will be managed on the search and selection summary by the search administrator. If you have more than one applicant that you would consider making an offer to, make sure to rate each of them as interviewed, consider for hire. If an applicant was given a code of Declined Position Offer in the Post-Interview Action Code field, the reason for job offer decline will appear. Select the reason from the drop-down menu that most accurately describes the reason why the applicant declined the job offer. You will only be allowed to select one option. Before submitting a search and selection summary, the online advertising on jobs at UNI will need to be ended. This will restrict any additional applicants from applying for the position. Click on the Manage Requisition Advertising link to access the advertising options. When selecting an advertising end date, the preferred method is to use the day before the current date as the designated end date. Using the prior date will immediately pull down the Jobs at UNI online advertising for the requisition and bypass the email notification of an upcoming advertising end date. Select the advertising end date for the requisition by clicking once on the calendar button. To have the Jobs at UNI online advertising end at the specific date, select Standard 14 days or Until End Date Above from the Advertising Date drop-downs menu. The final step in editing the requisition advertising information is to save the requisition. Click on the Edit Requisition button to save the requisition with the updated advertising information. From the Search Committee Options page, click on Search and Selection Summary, then click once on the Start a Search and Selection Summary button. Those applicants interviewed and still under consideration will appear in the Search and Selection Summary. Select the radio button next to the applicant or applicants you wish to hire. Complete the required fields marked with red arrows. The first question is if references have been checked. Select the radio button to indicate that references were checked. References can be checked on all final applicants, but at the minimum must be checked for the applicant you wish to hire. Next, enter the anticipated start date. This date could change when the verbal offer is made to the applicant. Next, complete the annual salary initial offer field. The minimum salary that was entered on the requisition will show in this field. Change the amount in this field to reflect the initial annual salary to be offered. Then complete the annual salary approval request up to field. The maximum salary that was entered on the requisition will show in this field. Change this field to reflect the maximum annual salary you want to request approval for any counter offers. A salary offer example would be to enter an initial offer of $40,000 and approval request up to $45,000 if needed. For hourly positions, the hourly rate entered in the requisition will appear as the default in this field. Change the amount in this field to reflect the hourly rate to be offered. Next, complete the percent of time week field. For academic administrator, institutional official, and P&S positions, the actual percent of time the employee will be working is in relation to a 40-hour week. For example, if the employee in this position will be working 30 hours a week, enter 75%. If they will work 40 hours a week, enter 100%. Select the appropriate background check necessary for this position from the list of options. Criminal background, credit history, child abuse, and motor vehicle operator license validation checks are to be performed post-offer as appropriate, with all offers being contingent upon satisfactory results. A pre-employment criminal background check is required for the final external applicant offered employment for non-temporary, full, and part-time positions. Division heads can designate positions that require the final applicant for employment to undergo additional background checks, including credit history, child abuse, and motor vehicle operator license validation. Any additional information regarding the selection of the applicant should be entered in the Other Comments field. This will be viewed by all workflow approvers. After you have completed the search and selection summary questions, you will need to assign the workflow. For P&S positions, HRS and OCEM do not need to be added to the workflow. The search and selection summary will automatically route to HRS for approval. The search and selection summary requires approval of the department head and division vice president. Please establish the appropriate approval workflow for your department. Once you have added all relevant workflow approvers, you can order the approvers by dragging them to the correct position. Once the workflow has been established, click on Save and Review for submission. Carefully review all sections of the search and selection summary. If everything is correct, click on the Finalize and Send into Workflow button. The report will then be electronically routed to the first approver indicated in the workflow for approval. After all approvals are obtained, the hiring official will receive notification that the selected applicant can be made an offer. After HRS notifies you that the hire is official, emails notifying applicants of their non-selection are to be sent out by their search chair using the Applicant Communication Center. To begin the automated letter process, click on the Applicant Communication Center link on the Search Committee Options page. Choose the appropriate email template, then follow the instructions on the screen to send the appropriate letter. Once the hire is official and communications have been sent to applicants not selected, you will request to close the requisition. Click on the Close Requisition button on the Search Committee Options page. If the search has outstanding requirements not completed, the Close Requisition button will remain unavailable until all requirements are completed. This concludes Part 4 of Merit and P&S Search Committee training. We hope that you have found this training beneficial and that you will share it with others in your office and across campus.